Good morning, morning for everybody else. For me, it's evening because it's 6:37 in the morning. I just got home from work, so I'm a little punchy. I know, shot. That's all you need. Yeah. That's if I wasn't rambling enough. Now it's after 8+ hours of dealing with the general public. Welcome to $9 podcast, episode 20 something or other. It's like I'm at the point where it's like, oh, the memory's starting to go, and it's like I'm starting to lose track of what number I'm on. But I know I'm still not quite at 50, but I'm about halfway there. I know that. I know that much at least. For those who don't know, I am who they call Drewski. I am the moderator of TalkNShop Patreon, as appointed by one machine gun, aka Bright Lights, aka Famous Hoot, aka Chad Too Bad, aka way too many nicknames Hoot, aka Machine Gun Carl Anderson, and the Freaking Deacon, aka you get the idea. Luke Doc Luke Doc, where's my $9? Gallows. And coming up on a year now, doing the actual year since that fateful email I got from Gunn, asking me, basically asking me to moderate the circus that is become known as the Falcon's Nest. And for the most part, for the most part, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's like, it's herding cats even on a good day. Even on a good day, it's like, a lot of the cats in there are a little saucy. Some of them have Tourette's. Some have one-track minds. They like to try and the whole lot. The hallmark of the TalkNShop, as you well know, is ball busting, and the Falcon's Nest is well versed in ball busting. They will ball bust everyone, me included. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a funny thing, right? Sometimes I feel like a substitute teacher, right? Because with the gun basically running all over the place, dance card filling up, figuratively and literally, right? And LG still can't year on still can't get in the nest because silent partner, the fifth most powerful man in wrestling, Rocky Romero, aka Sleepy Hoot, won't give him the code to get in the place. But come next week, there's a chance that might be rectified because I'm going to be at AEW Collision in Oceanside at Frontway Arena on the 21st. Sitting in the front row next to the announce desk, probably next to the either Andrade's honey, babe section, or sitting next to West Side Gun, one or the other. Just expect to see my crusty personage showing up on your TV on TBS. Because last time I went to Dynamite last year. I ended up apparently, I watched the replay of Dynamite. I ended up being shown on screen a lot. It's a happy accident, right? It's like, who knew, right? But it's going to be a lot of fun, right? People tend to complain about why does shit cost so much? Because I got like the VIP package. The VIP package is like $500 or something, which compared to WWE's like WWE's VIP packages are like about four figures minimum, right? But since I tend to justify it because they only come to town once a year at this point, and it always seems to be right around my birthday that they come to California come to California. It's because of weather, and, logistically, because weather's gonna be way better, even though it's the rainy season in California. February is the rainiest month in San Diego. You know, they say it never rains in Southern California. Well, you haven't been here in you haven't been here in February. You think people drive bad like on just a little bit of wetness? It's like it gets over half inch. It's like we're talking gridlock. We're talking it's Christmas for the tow truck drivers out here. Believe me. When knowing that they come like once a year, it just learn to like set a little money aside per week so the hit isn't as bad when it comes because you've been saving money for a year for it. Yeah. And if you've never done the VIP experience for AEW, it's pretty cool, right? And then you get backstage, they hand you a goodie bag. It's usually like like a hat, a lanyard, a turnbuckle pad, and a couple other little doodads. And there's a bit there. You have like a meet and greet, like about three or four wrestlers before the show. You come in, answer a couple questions, and then pose for photos and sign some stuff, and then you get escorted to the merch stand, and you get first crack at the merch stand, which is cool because merch stands tend to get nuts. They tend to get nuts. You also get like a $20 voucher. $20 voucher to use on concessions. So it's basically okay. You're paying in advance for food. It's like here you hand over the voucher to the concession people, and it's like all right, you're set. It's like having a coupon. It's like having a coupon. Then you go to your seat. It's easy peasy. It wouldn't be the sort of thing that you do. You have to be really rich to want to do it like every week, though. Like you do the West Side Gun and Green Shirt Guy gimmick, where it's like the same seats, every single week, right? You start doing the math on that, and it's like even the pay-per-views, like I know because Green Shirt Guy went to Saudi Arabia, right? Now you don't want to be, do you want to be annoying like you don't want to be the annoying super fan. You don't want to be like an annoying super fan where it's like you're trying to get yourself over at the expense of the talent. There's a couple well-known examples, and I'm not even going to go there. People know will know when you see them, right? So I'm there to support my friends, especially if there's a chance that they are actually wrestling on the show. That's one of the main reasons I'm going this week, going for Collision, because I have a feeling in the back of my head I'm going to be seeing Butcher and Blade return. Call it a hunch because they've been Blade's been cleared. They've been doing indie shows, both separately. It's like Blade just did one at Greektown Wrestling last night against Joey Janela. I'd like to go see that. There's probably highlights of it somewhere, but Pepper's his tan is back to form. Let's put it that way. And Butcher's coming out here to California to wrestle like at Baldwin Park in like March because he lives in Arizona now, and it's easier for him to do like West Coast dates and stuff. So considering they're on the West Coast for a couple, for AEW's pretty much on the West Coast for like the next month or so. Pacific Northwest, Sacramento for next Dynamite and stuff. It's easier for them to travel. So the odds of them showing up are a lot greater. And the odds are extremely great that I'll run into one Rocky Azucar Romero, which will be very interesting because last time I saw Rocky, you know, it was before all this. It was like 9, 10 years ago. Yeah, long time ago. It's like when New Japan did their first Long Beach show. You know, they did a meet and greet before the show. It was Tanahashi because it was a two-day event. Day one was Tanahashi, a young Will Ospreay, Roppongi Vice, and the Young Bucks and Kenny. Yeah, talk about star power back then. We're talking. This is like we're talking 2016, 2017. Actually, more like 2017. Right at the height. Marty was with them still, and Marty. The main event of that was Cody versus Okada, and the Bucks had Bucks had a relatively small line when I got there, which is if you know anything about the Bucks and their merch lines, it's like that never happens because Ring of Honor, PWG, it's like their lines are out the door and stuff. But I got lucky. And got to talk to the Bizzles and got to talk to the Bizzles, and I got the where are you from, sir? From the Indie Take. It's like, oh, that hurts. That hurts, Indie Take. Deferring to me like I'm, my senior citizen, I'm a doting dad. It's like, oh, but I ran into Rocky that day, and it's basically the first impression. I kind of scared him because for people who've never met me for the first time, I can come off quite kind of intense. Yeah. Not I don't notice it, but I have people notice it, right? It was the point. I'm Rocky's like, hey, are you okay? It's like looking at me sideways, and it's like I'm thinking, well, I'm gonna have to fight this guy. No, Rocky, whoa, relax, bro, relax. No, you're good. I gave him shit because I told him I was gonna wear a Sob, actual like Sob shirt. This was during the time I had been ribbing him for like about the past year and a half about him having Sob dealerships in California. Fleet of Sob dealerships. You had to take care of. That whole Sob thing was like just a throw. It was a throwaway. It comes from a throwaway line from Gallows, Tisha's. And I just ran with it. And it's like it became canon. It's like basically I told him, I was gonna wear a Sob shirt, and Rocky just starts laughing. So God damn it, those boys can't stop talking about that shit. Talking about my Sob dealerships, and it's talking about why do I keep bringing that up? Real good sport about that stuff. But Rocky is a busy hoot, right? He part of the Australia, the Australia shows for AEW the past couple of days. Because last night AEW actually had a house show. They've only had like a handful of actual house shows in their existence. I think you can count the number of house shows on like one hand. Maybe 3, maybe at least 4. This is like third or fourth they've ever done. Because I remember the first one. The first one was called The House Always Wins, and the main event was the Butcher and Darby Allin. That's how I remember it. Because Butch main evented. As it should be. As it should be, because Butch is the man. But last night they had like the main event was like a mixed tag in this house show, and total house show vibes. And it was like it was Mox and Marina Shafir against Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm, and Mox and Tony Storm locked up. Words fail. I've seen the highlights of it. It's incredible. It's simply incredible to get seeing Mox after all this time doing like deathmatch stuff and being a super serious guy, going back to being leaning into the comedy, right? Matching lazy kicks with Orange and selling strikes from Tony, like it was great. It's sort of how that's why house shows. I admit because they're few and far between. It's like Cody's actually trying to make it a point. Say, hey, we should do house shows again because it's been so long since people have actually there's actually done like house shows, like one of the big two. Especially WWE hasn't really done a true house show in a couple in years now, and so do a spot house show here and there. It's like you don't even really have to, because it used to be when WWE would do a house show, it was basically basically bare bones. Hardly a stage. It's like 1 or 2 banks of lights, hardly an entrance ramp. It's just all white lights, and it was like simple setup, right? And we took, it wasn't like fleets of trucks or anything. It was like a ring truck and like a ring truck and a little bobtail for lighting rig, and a PA. That's it. And they would rig money hand over fist back in the day. WWE would just for straight straight house shows. And it's one thing that to have your talent do excursions and stuff. Actually do house shows together, so you can test stuff out, see what can work, see what works, see what doesn't. And so WWE, that's how WWE would gauge house. They would use house shows to gauge. How would this look at a WrestleMania card? They did it. I remember them doing it years ago. They did it with the run of it was Sid and Undertaker was coming up, and they did a house show where they ran that. That was the main event. They teased it. The match started, and Stone Cold came in and interfered. Interfered in that match, right? And the funny thing was, like before that match, it was Stone. They had Stone Cold had wrestled Bret Hart earlier in on that same show, and Shawn Michaels interfered in that match. So it's funny the stuff you would see on house shows. You couldn't really see anything anywhere else. It's somebody will pick up pick up that, because there's an opening there for somebody to do the house show thing. Somebody will do it. Don't know when, don't know how, but notice the team formerly known as the Iconics, Great Girls, by the way, who worked as the inspiration in TNA, showed up at the house show in Brisbane last night and worked match. And then after the match said, "Oh, we are all elite. We're all elite. We want to wrestle everybody." So it's like, oh, okay. The more the merrier for the women's division, I'd say. You get people on Reddit like, downplaying. Why? Or you like poo-pooing them being there because they're not workers. Yeah, but, but you're going to need all types. You're going to need all types. They have enough workers. It's like if everybody, it's sort of the problem like New Japan has. Like everybody works strong style. It's like nobody really stands out, right? They do something different than everybody else. The Iconics do something different than everybody else, so they're going to stand out. And that adds for the variety aspect of the show. So I'm wondering, considering their past, it's like, okay, who are they going to torment on the roster? Because NXT fans are well aware of what they did, how they used to torment Kenta, as Hideo Itami. Go look up the videos on YouTube. It's like, oh, it's funny. It's funny as hell, right? They're funny girls. They're great. They're great at what they do, right? They are very good at what they do. And they used to do similar. Yeah, they switched over to torturing Johnny Gargano after Kenta left. Yeah, they could do that. They could do that same gimmick to somebody on the roster. It's like the easy way would be to just go look at Orange and go, oh, they're start tormenting him, and then Tony Storm and Mina basically object, and then say, hey, there you go, very mid feud. Everybody fighting over Orange. While Orange is just going whatever, it's right there. But there's also history with them and Harley Cameron, because Harley created their intro music, sang on their intro music, and fellow countrywoman, and I've seen videos of them together in the past, and they're trouble. Good God, are they trouble? It's like the funny kind of trouble. It's the thought of them tormenting Eddie Kingston. Oh, oh, gosh. Eddie would not know how to handle it. It'd be like Eddie trying to handle Cherry Bomb. Oh, boy, times 3. Let me tell you, if you don't know about the feud, the long running feud between Eddie Kingston and Allie, aka Cherry Bomb. Okay, their dynamic is like the Animaniacs, dynamic, Wacko, and Dot, and constantly giving each other shit, all the time giving each other shit. It's like big brother, little sister dynamic, big time, right? But Eddie is scary big brother, right? I can see that dynamic working out later. As far as the Grand Slam Australia goes, so, the Kyle Fletcher, Kyle Fletcher is like taking, it's like Kyle and Mark are like they're destined to fight forever at this point, right? I mean, they had, match 7. It turned out to be a best of 7. Who knew? It was like a sneaky best of 7 series. Sneaky best of 7 for the TNT title. And it happened to be a ladder match. Ladder matches, Briscoe in a ladder match is a guarantee of blood. And just guarantee it's something you've never seen before. And boy, howdy. And doing the brainbuster, you're doing a vertical brain, sheer drop brainbuster off the top of a ladder to the mat. That's a lot of trust, right? It's a lot of trust in your partner. It's a lot of trust in the positioning of the ladder, because there's nobody holding that ladder, right? You do that spot wrong, that ladder goes, and it's like, no, it could it's like a razor thin margin of error, right? It looked great, but it's one of those things like you don't, don't pull that out too often, right? Save that move for an important occasion. For crying out loud. It was like, when you had Andrade and Hanger. Andrade's going to be he's going to be wearing a belt. I don't know which belt, but he's going to, because he's motivated. He looks motivated. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if it would be Andrade Kyle sometime in the future. That would be a barn burner, right? But even though Andrade has the sights set on MJF and Mox, Andrade and Mox would be they have, that's the thing, they have like about 8 to 10 guys now that can legitimately lay claim to any title they want, right? That is impressive, impressive as hell. If you got, it's sort of like, the SmackDown 6 era, where it's like, any one of the guys in that era, it's like you got Angle and Edge and Bray. Any one of those guys you could hand the ball off to, and they would home run. They would home run every time. It's getting to be that way with Kyle Fletcher. Like MJF's there, like especially MJF. MJF's been channeling like NWA, NWA Ric Flair and Harley Race in terms of like doing press with the interview, doing press with the title. Coming off really well, right? He's coming off real well in these interviews. It's like he's being a dickhead, but he's also putting over his company, showing that you get showing that TK made the right decision, like giving him the belt to run with for a bit. And it's interesting to see what things are going to be like about even 2 years from now, because a lot of things can change. A lot of things can change. A lot of things can happen. There's a lot of things up in the air. We've still got several months to go until All In Wembley, and you got your Will Ospreay's about ready to come back. And it's like, and the specter of Jay White is still out there. You got Jay White about ready to come back. You get ready to be inserted into a program. You have, Eddie Kingston running back. Eddie in the background. You got Claudio in the background. You got Pac in the background. You got all these combustible elements floating around the main event scene, and it's an embarrassment of riches. It's an embarrassment of riches, and it's like, it's good that you probably include Darby in that, right? Include Darby in that because Jack Perry's kind of disappeared a little bit. It's a little bit of a stop and start. It's like, did you see Jack go after TNT title again? I don't know. Or he's in a holding pattern because of Luchasaurus. Right? You still got Cope and Christian about to come back because eventually it's going to be them against FTR, because that's the match. That is the match for All In, apparently. I think maybe. And yeah, let me go out on a limb. Although the Young Buck, knowing the Young Buck, the Bizzles would probably want to try and do like a TLC match with Edge and Cope, just to say they did it. Just to say they did it, because it look good on the resume, because they've wrestled everybody. That's like one of the only teams they haven't. It's like them and the New Day, right? It should be interesting. Yeah, I'll be reviewing the Collision show when it, probably the night of, after, get as soon as I get home from the place, as soon as I get home from the arena that night, and just do the podcast while like everything's fresh. So yeah, so I can tell you to my perspective of what's going on, right? Yeah, it's still a great time to be a wrestling fan, even though WWE fan, yeah, they're sort of like wandering around a little blindly right now in WWE. Because if you believe the dirt sheets, they had called like an all hands on deck meeting because tickets pre-sales for the WrestleMania tickets in Vegas are like 20,000 tickets behind the pace of last year at this time. And people, they're worried, and a little bit worried. And they're worried to the point where it's like they were doing like a 25% off sale on tickets in Vegas just for this weekend for WrestleMania. I have a feeling there's going to be more stuff like that coming up. Um, they still don't really have a card other than the main event though. So because a lot of things can happen, and they still have elimination chamber, so a lot of things can happen there. There's always the prospect of injury, and you're not really certain about how things are going to go. It's like, because they've been repeating the same type of matches over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, basically, running into the ground. And, people are starting to voice their displeasure about that. It wouldn't be the first time they voiced their displeasure about that. And it's like, that's the thing that's gone back years and years. It's like, it happened after the rock and wrestling era, it happened after Attitude Era, it happened after Ruthless Aggression Era, happened after the SmackDown 6 era. It's like, it's cyclical with the WWE. I've seen it for, having watched it, like since 1979. It was like Worldwide Wrestling Federation, back in the days of Pedro Morales and the original Rock Don Morocco, and Captain Lou Albano. Yeah, I go way back on that stuff. It's like, let's tell you how far back I go on this. It's like, I actually saw Jesse the Body Ventura like wrestle one of his actual wrestle before, because Jesse would do spot shows. In his last, his last year as a full time wrestler, in between like doing the commentary things. Like he did a show, he did a house show in San Diego because hey, Coronado, he was a former Navy SEAL, right? He wrestled a guy named, was a guy under a mask that was named, I think it was a local guy. They named him Mr. El Cajon. Yeah. I still remember that to this day. That was the same show that they did. It was, a house show, right? The main event of that house show was a lumberjack match between Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper, coming off of the events of WrestleMania 1, the first WrestleMania. And it's like during the match, Piper tried to escape and got halfway down the aisle, and British Bulldog just picked him up and basically carried him over his head, military press style, all the way back to the ring. One of the more impressive feats of strength I've ever seen live. Right? This is the sort of thing that makes an impression, even now. Right? It's like you see Flair wrestle, like like you see a Nitro, saw Nitro with the NWO. Like, because when the arena known as Viejas Arena had just opened. It was like in 1999. It was like right before, it's like the year before, the downhill slide of WCW happened. It's like, 1999. Yeah, they came to the Viejas Arena. It used to be called Cox Arena, right? And WCW had like at the time, they had a internet only show. They did on the pre-shows, like WC, it was called WCW Nitro Live. It's like Jeremy Borash would host it backstage. It was like him and Disco. Unfortunately, well, it was more like Jeremy hosted it, and Disco would just show up and just horn in, and they didn't really throw him out, right? But the guest of that show, that episode, that was that, Cox Arena. It was the big men. It was Scott Hall. It was Scott Hall and X-Pac. And Scott Hall and X-Pac, and it's basically, they asked, well, so first question I said, so what's the name of this arena again? It's like, they got told the name of the arena was Cox Arena. They did a Scarface. They did. It's like, they mentioned it like about 135 times in that interview. In like a 10-minute interview. It's fucking, just obnoxious as hell. It was great. Good times. It's one of the ones when Sting, it was like the main event was Hogan versus Flair. And no, it was Hogan and DDP. And Sting rappelled down from the rafters. No, he didn't rappel down. Well, I'm trying to remember. Did he rappel down the rafters? No, he came down the stairs. It's one of the few times he didn't rappel down. And you would talk about, that was a chaotic show back then. It's like, like I said, house shows they're an endangered species. It's kind of sad that they've gone away, but I wish they would come back.